For the entire skirt, I'll be using 2.5 meters of fabric. 2.5 meters is 90 inches. I'm going to be dividing 90 inches in half. The first 45 inches will be for the front piece as the width. And the other 45 inches will be for the back piece as the width. Now, the entire skirt is 3 times my waist measurement. And this is the front piece, which is 45 inches in width. And the length will be 43 inches. Now, for the front piece, in order to get the slit, I'll be dividing it into 3 equal parts. The first 15 inches would be right there. And then I'm going to mark the next 15 inches. Depending on where you want your slit to be, you're going to cut out one of the 15 inches. So I'll mark 15 inches from the bottom part to come meet the one in front. And then I'll cut that out. So this is where I want my slit to be. I'll cut out this piece and then I'll join it back together again, right sides facing. And you would need to determine how long you want your slit to be. So for me, I wanted mine to be 16 inches. And the band inclusive. So I took out 2 inches for the band and then I marked the 16-inch mark. So I would run a straight stitch all the way to the 16-inch mark. And when I get to the end of the 16-inch mark, I'm going to be running a back stitch to end the stitch. And I'll open up the seams just like I'm doing. So once you're done, we'll be sewing this all the way up to the point where the slit ends and then all the way back down. I'll show you how to go about this. Now for the back piece. I'll be dividing the 45 inches in half because the back piece is going to have a zipper. So the next thing will be to cut out the pockets. I want my skirt to have pockets. I'll be cutting out all 4 pockets together. I'll be using my hand to trace out the pockets, but I want the length to be 10 inches. So I'm just going to cut out what I traced out already. So I'm going to be having 2 pockets for the front and the other 2 pockets for the back. So to fix the pockets, I'm going to be marking 5 inches from the top, just like I'm doing. And then I'll place one of the pockets just like that at the 5-inch mark. And then I'll pin it down. And then I would run a straight stitch just there. I would also do the same for the other side as well. So right sides facing, you pin it down and then run a straight stitch. And then I'll repeat the same for the back piece. So I'm going to be running a straight stitch just to secure all of the pockets together. And once we're done with that, I would move to the slit of the front piece. So like I was explaining, this is how to go about the slit. When you get to the mark where the slit ends, you'd have to pivot a little, just like I'm doing. And then you'd have to come all the way back down and continue with your straight stitch. Down to the end, and you're basically done with that. So here is what it looks like. So the next thing would be to cut out the band, the waistband. So I'm going to mark this point as my baseline or my starting point. From the starting point, I'm going to mark 1 inch downwards. And from that 1 inch mark, I would mark 4 inches because my waistband would be 2 inches and that would be on fold. And then I'm going to add 1.5 inches to join and fold the waistband, which gives me 5.5 inches in total. Now for the other end, I'm not going to be marking 1 inch down, but I'm going to start from the baseline and I'll mark 5.5 inches. So I'm just going to connect that to the end and the other to the other end, just like I'm doing. So I'm using my pant cuff just to give it a slant curve to avoid gaping at the waistband. So my fabric is actually on fold. So I'm going to be marking my waist circumference divided by 2. So mine is 15 inches. And then I would add 2 inches extra, which gives me 17 inches. And then I'll cut that out. The next thing to do would be to mark the midpoint. And then I'll divide it into 2. I'll cut that out and then I'll join it back together just like I'm going to show you. Right sides facing, I'll run a straight stitch and I'll show you what it looks like. So here is what it looks like. We just run a straight stitch. I would open up the seams and then I'm going to fold in 1/2 inch on both sides. And then I'll fold it this way. The next thing to do would be to turn it to the wrong side just like this and then run a straight stitch to close that up. And here is what it looks like. I'll do the same for the other end as well. And then I'll push out the ends and then iron it properly. And you should be basically done with the band. So this is the back piece. We have the pocket fixed already. I'm going to be marking 7 inches for the zipper. So I'll run a basting stitch to the 7-inch mark and then I'll continue with a straight stitch. And here is what it looks like. So the next thing would be to join the front piece to the back piece, right sides facing. So I'll pin this down together and then I'll run a straight stitch and do the same for the other end as well. So here is how to go about it. So I'll raise my presser foot and then I'm going to pivot a little. And then when you get to the end of the pocket, you would also pivot a little again. And then you'll continue all the way to the end. So this is what it looks like. Both the front and the back piece have been joined together. And these are the pockets. So here is the space for the zipper. We're going to be running a basting stitch all the way around. So that's going to be the longest stitch on your sewing machine. So I'm going to be starting immediately after the space for the zipper. And I'll do that all the way around. So once we're done doing this, we'd have to gather the skirt. And here's what the gather looks like. So you're gathering the skirt based on your waist measurements. So I've just pinned down the zipper. So I'll go secure the basting stitch and then attach the zipper. And here's what it looks like. The next thing would be to attach the waistband. So while pinning the waistband, you're turning it to the other side just to be sure that everything is well secured. And this is what it should look like. Then I would run a straight stitch all the way around. And the last part will be to hem and you're basically done.